In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a pounding techno kick like this. I'm Philip from Tucson Music, and whenever I can, I like to get creative with my sound design on my kicks. And so in this video, I'm going to show you two ways to make techno kicks in Phase Plant. One is just a straightforward starting template just to get you up and running. It's pretty simple, but it opens up a lot of possibilities to suit different needs. The other kick is going to be a lot more involved, but it's going to have a distinct characteristic that you can use to define the entire vibe of a track. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here we are in Phase Plant. Go ahead and grab yourself a wavetable generator, go into the folders, go on to signs and grab this overdriven sine right here. This is essentially a sine wave with distortion built into it. So it's going to help us get a harder kind of sound out of this kick. Next, go ahead and open up a curve modulator and put that on sync, and it should be on 4/16. Basically, this is one beat. So within this window, you can kind of visualize the time of the kick, and we're going to connect this to the pitch right here. A lot of this is going to be up to experimentation. So where you set this pitch right now is kind of up to you. We're also going to adjust the curve here, and this is also up to you. Figure out what sounds best. Let's not forget to put this attack to 0. That way we get a better transient. You get more of that click right there. Open up another curve modulator here. Go ahead and set this to sync as well. Connect it to the amplitude this time. Let's set this to 100% here and 0% there. On this curve here, make sure to set this so that it doesn't really go past 2/16. We don't want it much longer than half of a beat. So that way you leave room for a rumble or bass or whatever. And with this first bit of the curve, you can control how much of that transient is coming through. So something like that works for me right there. Let's get another curve. Go ahead, set that to sync, and let's connect this one to the frame here. So this will now get us that initial kind of hardness to the kick. It'll get us that distortion to come through, but we can control it so that the distortion doesn't last all the way throughout the kick. It only happens on that first transient. So the punch comes through better, but the tail of it is still clean. And you can go back and adjust these as well now. Maybe adjust your curves further, see what you can get out of these. From there, anything's fair game. You can go ahead and add distortion. You can add more EQs and clean things up further. But yeah, essentially, this is a good starting point for any style of techno, really. So yeah, I'll leave it there. So let's move on to the second kick. This one is going to be a bit crazier with the processing. I'm going to just kind of wing it on this one and talk you through my thinking. So let's see where we land. So I'm going to open up an analog generator, put this on a sine wave. Let's do the curve modulator, put that on sync, and I'm just going to go ahead and preemptively kind of shape it. Let me grab the curve modulator for the amplitude. I'm going to set up a 4 to the floor kick, just like that. So from here, I'm going to open up Snap Heap, and we're going to do a lot of processing within Snap Heap. I'm using this so that we can take advantage of the parallel processing within Snap Heap. So I'm going to leave the first lane open. Let's just move on to the second one. And the classic thing to do for any techno kick is use distortion. So let's see what we can get. So I like the sound of that, but it just sounds too distorted. I want maybe the transient of this to come through, but not the tail of this. So I'll utilize a gain plugin, attach a macro to it, make it go from 0 to 100. In this case, that's 50% is 100% of the gain. Let me attach a curve modulator to that. And of course, now all we're hearing is that transient, that first punch. I want to parallel process this so that way we get this punchy distortion, but also the full kick coming through as well. And then we can adjust the gain here to get things balanced the right way. So let me open up Slice EQ and further balance between these two parallel buses. I'm just basically listening for anything that makes the kick feel harder, bouncier, have more depth to it. And I'm always thinking ahead to what this can sound like with further distortion on it. Let me keep messing with the other side. Let me see what happens if I boost the high end before the distortion here. And for this case, I'll just open up a filter. So I kind of like that. It just further exaggerates the top end, which makes things hit a little harder. Let me try and duplicate this filter. I'm also kind of liking the direction of this. And when it comes to crazy kick designs like this, don't be afraid to just push things to the limit and try and break things and see what happens. From here, let's keep pushing it into a techno vibe. Let's get that warehouse feel that you get from reverb. So I'm going to open up Convolver. Lately, I've just really been enjoying this empty apartment bedroom sound here. Use this stretch parameter to get different styles. So especially when you push it to extremes like this, where it just gives you this kind of really hollow, gritty feel. I kind of like that. It has an interesting tail, but maybe too much of a tail. So let me bring the fade out down. I like what I'm hearing when I push the tone up. It has this little extra top end now. Let me experiment with doing parallel processing. So put that to 100, bring this to parallel. Balance the gains a bit. Maybe let's parallel it with another Convolver, see what happens there. And in fact, I'll just copy over this one. This gives a new interesting tonality to the knock of the kick. I like this extra atmosphere that it's adding, but maybe it's too much atmosphere. Let me bring over this this same gain plugin here, shorten it up, and then let me put the mix back to 100 and do a further parallel processing here. Instead of this macro though, let's do a different one. This is too short for me. Maybe let's try this one. Let's maybe not go all the way down to 0. Kind of like that right there. So I like that the kick is becoming unique now, but it definitely has more of this mid tonality to it. It doesn't really have much depth and like bounciness to it. Let's see what we can do to manage that. I'm actually going to go back into our first stages of the kick here. Let's see if we can adjust some modulators. And little adjustments go a long way, as you can hear. Next, I'm going to try and layer this sine wave here with something else, see if we can get a more interesting tonality. And then make sure to connect your modulators. I kind of like what that's doing right there. So now that we have this new tonality, let's go ahead and start shaping Snap Heap once again. So that sounds pretty interesting, but let's get more distortion. I'm just going to bring some gain down after raising it with the distortion. Always like to gain match approximately a bit. So I'm going to use disperser now to see if we can try and realign the interaction between the transient and the body of the kick to see if we can make them meld together in a more tight kind of way. You can already hear what that's doing for the transient. So before, after. From here, we still don't have that low end depth and power that we're looking for. We do have the characteristics that are really going to make this kick unique, but let's see what we can do to get things to be even bigger. Let's grab an EQ first, just boost the low end. Try a compressor to make it feel more controlled. adjust things over here. So I like this a lot better now. It's definitely punching and it's more clear. From here, you can keep tweaking to your heart's desire. I mean, you can make it more raw, you can make it more deep, but at the end of the day, it's just gonna come down to your style, your preferences, and how far exactly you wanna take things. But I'm gonna leave this one here and let's see what it sounds like in the context of an actual track. So I hope you guys enjoyed this walkthrough. This is my first foray into YouTube, and I'm planning on making more content about sound design and production and stuff like that. So please give a thumbs up if you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up with future projects, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions about anything that I went over or did in the walkthrough, or feel free to let me know about anything that you do to make your kicks and how you make kicks stand out. Or is making kicks like this just a waste of time in general? Should we just be grabbing kicks and just getting on with it? I mean, I don't know the answer to that, honestly. And I don't know if new channels can even leave links in descriptions of videos, but if I can, then I'll be sure to leave the patches for these kicks in the description. So maybe keep an eye out for that. But that's all for this video. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.